Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's session Guide to Penetration Testing Preparing for Effective Exploitation. This is the second session in our series with Rodney Gullatte. I am Renal Vicaria, and I'll be your host for the day. If you missed the first session of this CEH series, you can find the link to watch them shared in the chat section. Before we get started, we would like to go over a few house rules. For our attendees, the session will be in listen-only mode and will last for an hour, out of which last 15 minutes will be dedicated to question and answers. Now about the speaker, Rodney Gullatte. Rodney is a community leader, US Air Force veteran, certified ethical hacker, certified chief information security officer, certified network defense architect, and has another 13 certifications. He is the CEO of Firma IT Solutions, which provides penetration testing for private companies that currently have internal IT cyber support or are outsourcing their IT cyber services. With a background in information technology and cybersecurity that includes the Department of Defense, retail, healthcare, casinos, utility companies, and more, Rodney has developed Firma IT Solutions to bring this enterprise pen testing service to business in the Pikes Peak region and across the world. Colorado Springs is his fifth community as a military family. In the short span of 9 years, Rodney established himself in Colorado Springs as a transformational business and community leader. His latest accomplishments are becoming the first Black president of the Rotary Club of Colorado Springs 2020-2021, winner of Colorado Springs Business Journal Best in Business 2017 and 2023, has won cybersecurity company. Recipient of the Colorado Springs Business Journal Rising Star Class of 2018 Award, winner of the 2020 Mayor's Young Leaders Award in Technology and Sustainability, winner of the 2020 Front Range Power Connectors Networker of the Year, founder of Colorado Springs Black Business Network, and the winner of Small Business Week 2019, Veteran Business Owner of the Year. He is the immediate past president and CEO of Colorado Springs Black Chamber of Commerce. He serves on the board of directors for the Colorado Springs Chamber and EDC, the Cultural Office of the Pikes Peak region, and the National Cybersecurity Center. He is an alumni of the inaugural Colorado Springs Mayor Civic Leader Fellowship, Colorado Governors Fellowship Class of 2022, and Colorado Springs Leadership Institute Class of 2019. He is the most currently an honorary commander of the US Air Force Academy. He is one of 50 people globally to be honored as a 2023 EC Council Chief Information Security Officer Hall of Fame Award winner. So without any further delay, I would now hand over the session to you, Rodney.
Thank you, and good morning from Colorado Springs, everyone. I know it's the evening for a lot of you. I appreciate you being here today to go over some guide to pen testing, planning and preparation for effective exploitation. So we're going to get a little more into the weeds today. I want to thank the EC Council for giving me this platform to share some knowledge with the world. And I also want to thank all of you who've been connecting with me on LinkedIn. I appreciate that. So for those of you that are new, please feel free to connect with me. I like making new friends all over the world. Being able to inspire you to keep learning and keep sharpening your tool set and becoming a better, more effective, ethical hacker professional. And I appreciate all of you who have contacted me to try to do some business. I always like that part. So thanks again. Thank you for the introduction. I'm a husband and a father. Shout out to my wife and my kids who are on their way to school right now. Thanks, dear, for getting them ready for school so I could be here to talk to all of you this morning. So let's talk about some of the takeaways we're going to have today. We're going to be defining objective, scope, and resources for penetration testing, selecting appropriate methodology and tools based on the testing environment, the technical, ethical, and legal clearances involved in pen testing, test design, reconnaissance, and vulnerability assessment, and documentation and reporting for actionable insights and stakeholders. I see some of you writing me on LinkedIn now saying you've been waiting a whole month for this talk, so let's get to it. So the objective, scope, and resources. When you start doing pen tests for organizations, companies. You need to be very clear about what your pen test is providing. Some of those key details are how long is it going to take? In my examples, most of my pen tests take 2 weeks, but I'm usually done before that 2-week period, but I give them a longer time frame so I can under promise and over deliver, right? The deliverables that you're going to be giving the client, they need to know what they're getting. So the reporting, we're going to talk about some of those reports at the end, but the reports are what you're giving the client. We're doing this pen test to give reports, which makes us different from the criminal hackers who will just take your money and take your data with, no reports on what they've done to destroy your company and take your data. I have had some experience with some of these hacker groups where they will write the client and give them like a short list of things that they found on the network that they should fix. It's pretty interesting that they do that, but it's a business. It's an illegal business, but a business nonetheless for the cyber criminal. So there you have that. And the red team, blue team, purple team, phishing, physical and digital. So there's a lot of different types of pen testing that you can provide. In my case, I don't do the physical. So let's say you want to be the person that brings donuts to the office, but you're not supposed to be in the office. And since you have the donuts first thing in the morning, everybody wants donuts. So they just let you right in and have you walk all the way back to the break room and drop the donuts off. So then you find an empty cubicle and plug your USB drive in, and now you're able to infect the whole network. We'll talk about using USB drives as a delivery for being able to take over machines on a network later on in this presentation. But if you're doing physical, you need to talk about that. If you're going to be doing phishing campaigns as part of your pen testing, you need to tell the client about that also. That's when you're going to be sending the emails out to try to fool them into clicking things. Red team is the attack team. The blue team is the team that's trying to run defense. And purple is when they're working in concert together at the same time to try to run this pen test. For my company, we do red teaming only. We do get information from the client about their network, so it's not a black box test. That's when we don't know anything about the network. But red team is what we're doing, and we get a whole lot of data from these clients, and I haven't done a pen test yet where I don't find things. So for those of you who may be on the call who are not sure whether to get a pen test or not, I highly recommend you do so if you haven't done one. And if you've had the same vendor doing pen tests for a decade, maybe it's time to get another set of eyes on it and switch up your tactics. So scoping questions. When I'm doing these, I'm asking how many internal IP addresses you have and how many external IP addresses you have. I'm asking for your website. I'm asking if there's anything that's off limits. Are there servers that you don't want me to scan? For the most part, every time I've done a penetration test, it doesn't disrupt the operations of the organizations that I'm pen testing. So they don't even see me. I think I may have had one client that actually saw the scanning and all the stuff that I was doing in the background. All the rest of them didn't even know I was running a pen test. So that's something. That's a telling sign right there that you may not have the right tools in place to even see if a cyber attack is happening on your business. You should at least have something that good. How many sites? So how many locations? One of the pen tests I did had 3 office locations in the state of Colorado and 7 construction sites, remote sites. So I need to add all those things up in order to create the pricing for that. So you need to know those questions, the answers to those questions. And sometimes the IT either doesn't know these questions or won't give them to you. In that case, the price may change because we have to figure things out by ourselves. But the scoping questions are important. You need to scope the job. And what information will you have from the client? Will I be able to get the information required from the client or not? I've got a school district. It's a collection of schools here in the region, and their IT doesn't know how many nodes they have. They don't know how many IP addresses need to get scanned. And I have to go find that out. So, in those cases, it takes a little longer to run the pen test. So in the contract that we have signed before we run these engagements, I make sure I outline if I have to go find out these answers by myself, it may delay the test a little while, and it may go outside the scoped time frame that I have for the engagement. But it's okay, I'll always get my answers, and the pen tests always go without a problem. So the objective, scope, and resources, make sure you take care of those details before you get started. Now, selecting the appropriate methodology and tools based on the testing environment. There's a lot of different frameworks. The CEH 13, you're going to have a framework in there. I think Lockheed Martin has a framework. For the pen testing that I do, I use the MITRE ATT&CK framework, and there's the website for it if you want to go check it out. It's pretty detailed. It's a pretty interactive site, but my pen testing is based on this framework, and it's a good framework for you to learn. It's a process. So if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And that is, my mantra for, being able to run these cyber attacks in a good way, in an orderly way, from start to finish. And those, the MITRE ATT&CK framework has 14 pieces: reconnaissance, resource development, initial access, execution, persistence, privilege escalation, defense evasion, credential access, discovery, lateral movement, collection, command and control, exfiltration, and impact. And for many of these, there's tool sets involved in a lot of these. So let's go down some of these, all of these actually. So with reconnaissance, this is when I'm scanning your network. This is when I'm doing OSINT, open source intelligence. I'm going to your website and seeing who your board of directors are. I'm saying how many locations you have around the country. I'm running Nmap. And one of the interesting things about Nmap, there's a speed at which you can scan the networks that you can adjust. So you want to scan it quickly, but not too quick that you start to trip defenses that are on the network and they see you. So you want to go just fast enough to not be seen by the defensive systems that are on the network. So don't go too fast. Bloodhound is another tool that I like to use, and that is used to get intel on the Active Directory environment. And that helps me get intel for my privilege escalation, which I end up doing later. Resource development. This is the part where I start building my infrastructure to attack you. And I'm gonna, when I talk about this, I'm gonna talk as if I'm the hacker. We all know we do certified ethical hacking around here, okay? So when I talk about myself running these, it's from an ethical hacker standpoint. Just want to make sure I put that out there. So I'm creating my infrastructure and resource development, and I may be using your infrastructure against you. Default domain policies in your Active Directory. This is me building my command and control infrastructure to attack your systems. The initial access, this is getting into your network. So this is your default accounts. For those of you with, Comcast business class, the default credentials to your cable modem is cusadmin and high speed. It's not a secret, you can Google that. There's a lot of default usernames and passwords you can just hop on Google and find. So those are one of the places I'll research to find out how to get into your system. So make sure you change the default usernames and passwords on your accounts. This is your cameras, your printers. Initial access can be through your supply chain. So I can write you as one of your suppliers, and you don't pay attention to the email address that it came from. It says Joe Bag of Donuts at AOL.com, but the name is the same name as one of your suppliers. So you end up clicking the PDF or clicking the link, and that is another way for me to get initial access. And the phishing, a lot of these cyber attacks happen through phishing or vishing when I call you on the phone. Execution is when we actually get this malicious code to run. How do we get malicious code to run? You click on it. Thank you very much. Congratulations. You clicked on the email. Running PowerShell or command line things in the background. I could even bind execution to keystrokes that you use. So how often do you use Control-C for your copy paste? I use it all day long. So I can bind Control-C to some type of action to infect your machine every time you hit Control-C or Control-V or Control-X or Control-Z to go back. Unix shell commands. It's a lot of ways to get the execution for these viruses to start. Persistence. I need to maintain my foothold in your network. So, I can create auto start services. I can hide in your print spooler service. That's a legitimate service. And we've seen a lot of these cyber attacks recently using legitimate services to hide and stay persistent. So, and that's always running. You could use a browser extension for persistence, a registry key. And now that you're in, you can start creating your own accounts, setting backdoors and set them in a multitude of places. So you don't just attack one machine, you try to get persistence in as many places on this network as you can. So if somebody tries to find you on one box, you're all over the network. So, it becomes a real challenge to find all the backdoors without professional help. So persistence is key. And then after persistence, we have privilege escalation. So this is me gaining higher level permissions, using privileged accounts that, I already have access to, token stealing, token manipulation, and all of our beloved scripts. I know everybody loves to run scripts in here. So we can put things in your scripts, your login script. As soon as you log into the computer, stuff runs. That could be me coming in for privilege escalation under your admin account. Network scripts. If you log in as an administrator, that's dangerous. So, a best practice is to have the level of access that you need to do your job. You all shouldn't be logging in as an administrator on your computer systems. If you are, that's probably not a good best practice at all. So least privilege to get the job done. That's what we're doing. Defense evasion. I want to avoid being detected. So this is the point where I kill your firewall, right? I uninstall your antivirus, or I clear all your logs, or I suppress your notifications so you don't get those pop-ups saying, hey, there's somebody in your machine. I'll turn all that off, and hiding in legit applications. So just keeping myself from being seen is super important. And then credential access, stealing account names and passwords. So, in this day, it's 2024, we're almost in November, and there are still people with passwords.xlsx files. This is an Excel format. So you got an Excel file with all your passwords in it on your desktop. When I'm running a pen test, I'm gonna find that file. And I'm gonna go in that file, and I'm gonna log into your programs with those credentials and further my exploits. So stop putting stuff in those password files on your computers. Use a better method to protect that data. Other files you have with your passwords clearly exposed. You might have them in a Word doc. You might have them on sticky notes around the office, and I just got to walk around and take pictures real quick of your monitors, or they might be underneath your keyboard, right? Don't put passwords on your keyboard. Stop doing that. Saving passwords to your browsers, not safe. Me finding a way to trick you into giving me your 2FA codes. I'm pretty sure some of you have seen some of that. If you're on social media, you've definitely seen it. You'll get a message from your friend. It says, hey, I lost my phone. I can't get into my account. I'm going to send you this code. Can you send it to me, please? And you want to be helpful. This is the whole social engineering piece. We all want to be helpful. And it's a message from our friend. It might be a message from your boss. So you go ahead and send them that 2FA code that they sent you, not realizing that they've already got your username and your password, and that is your 2FA code that they just got. So not too long after you send them that 2FA code, now you're having issues accessing your social media or some of your other accounts. So please don't do that. Never give away your 2FA code, ever. Brute force password cracking is part of the credential access piece. Hashcat is a powerful tool. I like using that. And John the Ripper is a classic tool. I like to use that too. And there's some other tools to hack passwords, but this is where we get our credential access. That's the type of activity that goes on in there. And then we go into discovery. So I'm trying to figure out your environment. Now I'm enumerating the systems with my new credentials. So everything looks new. Now I have super access to everything. Local and domain user accounts, network device accounts, cloud accounts. What are my permissions, my permission groups? What are the network shares? So all those things are in my discovery chain. So I'm just gathering intel. Yes, the cyber attack is getting worse. And these things happen faster than I'm speaking about them. Lateral movement. Once the discovery piece is done, now I'm trying to move through your environment. I'm using my credentials to RDP, remote desktop protocol, into your other systems. I'm SSH into your other systems. You may have software deployment tools like Altiris or some RMM tools that I just hijacked, and now I'm getting access to all your machines from your management console. And I'm just passing it along. If you have USB drives that you like to use with your tools, so for you technicians out there, and you put a bunch of tools on your drive and you're going around different computers and you're sticking your USB drive in all these different machines, if I have infected one of those machines and I'm waiting for a USB drive to be plugged in, my code is being copied to your drive. And every time you stick it in a new computer, it's being put into each one of those computers. So now you're helping me share the infection with the rest of your network. Maybe in some places I wasn't able to get to through the network, but now with you, SneakerNet is what we used to call it. You plug in that USB drive in, I'm able to get into those machines now. So just a thought, maybe disable your USB drives. Just a thought. I think, what was it, Booz Allen Hamilton with Edward Snowden had a USB drive issue. So just don't let people take stuff from you and infect you through your USB drives. I don't think there's really a reason for you to have that online. So just disable it. So after lateral movement, I have collection. So this is where I'm gathering data of interest. Now I'm staging data around your network to get ready to take it from you. I'm zipping files up and getting it nice and neat to take it from you. I have your HR files set aside over here. I've got your medical records over here. I've got your tax data set over here. All the information on your students and your staff, from early childhood education to colleges and universities. I'm grabbing all the data and I'm staging it, getting it ready. Everything I want to find on your company, all your intellectual property, I'm putting that together in a nice little package and staging it. The command and control is your next piece. So that is your network communicating with compromised systems to control them. So I was building that during resource development. Now I'm making sure I have great connections between as many machines on your network as possible with my command control infrastructure. I may use an uncommon port. So a lot of these pen tests, you can scan like the top 1,000 ports used. And we know what those ports are. So as a hacker, I'm going to use ports that aren't in that top 1,000. Just some random port, I don't know, 65,235 TCP. And I'm going to be running data in and out of those ports. I might change the ports just to keep the data moving in different places, so it's harder to detect. So when you're doing a pen test, I suggest you scanning that entire TCP range of ports. That's important. Let's see, and there's many methods of connectivity that can be used to take data from systems and send it into systems. So we can use HTTPS. You can use FTPS. Maybe I'll hide the data in different ways to get it out of your network. And that's when we get to the exfiltration. Now I'm taking your stuff. Now I'm taking your data from you. I'm making the copy. And this is key. The key to this is taking your time. So if I have like a 40 gig file, I might trip an alarm if there's a 40 gig data set leaving your network. So there are tools out there that will allow me to chop those files up. Some of those tools, I can chop them up to like 1 megabyte files, just a whole bunch of them, and just take them out piece by piece over time. Because you don't see me, you don't know I'm in there. So I'm taking your data. It might take me a week to get all that data out of there. It might take me a couple days, depending on how fast your network is. But I'm going to take it. Not all the data being stolen will use the same connectivity methods. So I may use different protocols to take your data from you. Side channels can be created using other encrypted means of communications. I may use symmetric encryption. I may use asymmetric encryption to get this data out of your network. But if you have no way of seeing me, I'm going to end up getting it all. And then the impact. The goal is to manipulate, interrupt, or destroy your systems. This is where the encrypted data for ransomware comes in, because now that I have all your data, now I'm going to lock it up and charge you Bitcoin to get it back. Does that sound familiar? It should, because that's a pretty prolific way that people have been getting hacked these days, is with the ransomware. DDoS attacks, maybe I'll wipe your hard drives, or I'll mess up the firmware on your servers so that they're bricked, you can't use them. So, in a nutshell, there's a lot of ways to build this stack, and there's a whole lot of different tools to use in these 14 steps. But this MITRE ATT&CK framework is good. And for people trying to defend their networks, looking at it from this framework to defend yourself is good. So put things in place that will, stop your firewall from being disabled, or stop your antivirus from being disabled. Find ways to keep people from laterally moving across your network. Make sure everybody's using 2FA. The Authenticator app, which rotates the 6-digit code every 60 seconds, those are better than the text messages. So, use things like that. The technical, ethical, and legal considerations. So make sure you're detailed in your statement of work. This is the contract that you're presenting to the client before you start your penetration test. Make sure everything's in there. Make sure you go over that with them. When you pen test, since we are ethical hackers on the call here, it's not ethical for you to fix what you find. So you can't hack somebody and then go in and fix what you find. That needs to be separated duties. So as a pen tester, you're going into pen test, and that's it. They should have IT support already, either internally or externally, to remediate the things that you find. Be friendly with the IT and cyber team. So the thing about pen testing, and one of the things that I run into a lot also, when I'm engaging the IT directors or the IT people, when a CEO or owner sends me that route to get the pen test done, I usually hit a wall, because I'm the person that's going to be pulling back the curtain, right? All these years, the IT staff or the director or whoever has been telling the CEOs or upper level management that everything is great. And that's great. I encourage you, you should trust your IT directors, but for the owners and C-suites and board of directors out there, you trust but verify, okay? I've got stories. You can look at some of my older cyber talks about some of the stories I've seen where, the IT folks will tell the CEO one thing, like, yeah, we have backups. Yes, our firewall is good. And then the firewall ends up not even being on at all. If you had a pen test, you'd be able to find those things out. So get the pen test. This isn't a decision for your IT to pick who's going to pen test them. This is a decision for the C-suite and the board of directors. You will tell them, hey, we're about to get a pen test. Give our pen tester everything they need to thoroughly test our environment, because we're trying to help. We're not trying to take anybody's job. We're not trying to embarrass anyone as pen testers. We're trying to help enable the IT and cyber team to do better with their job. And we're trying to save companies. And in doing so, we're going to save the people and the supply chains that do business with those companies, because the more secure you are, the secure your supply chain is, right? So let's do this together as a team. You don't need to be threatened when a pen tester comes around asking to work on your stuff. Make sure you have a signed agreement before you start. Do not hack these people's networks without a signed agreement, all right? If anything goes sideways, you have it signed. You have everything listed out in your contract. Make sure your contract is thorough. Documentation and reporting. So this is why you're doing the pen test, is to give these reports. So in my reports, I have an executive summary, a consolidated report, a technical report, an activity log that shows everything that I did, the timestamps, everything, all the movement, everything is listed in there. That's a technical report, the log file, and there's an evidence file where I've taken pictures of things that I've been able to see, your files, your passwords I've been able to unlock, like all that stuff is in there. So you want to present all of these things. What I typically do after an engagement, after I hand over the reports, I set up a Zoom call or some type of telecom call with all the stakeholders. Myself is on it, the CEOs, maybe the boards of directors, and the IT team. So we can go over this stuff together. And this isn't for me to beat up on the IT. I'm just showing what we found. And 10 times out of 10, the IT is able to see these issues and know how to remediate them. The cool part about the reports are that you should have recommendations on how to fix everything that you find on that network. They all have CVEs, and all the CVEs have things that can be fixed. Typically not finding any 0 days on the pen test, that at least I do. And the next important thing is to make sure that you schedule that next pen test. Depending on the size and scope of the organization, this may be a 1-year engagement, like an annual thing, and maybe it'll be done every 6 months, maybe it'll be done every quarter. Depends on the client, depends on the sensitivity of the information and the massive amount of information that they have and they need to protect. Will depend on how often you run these penetration tests. Because you have an IT and cyber team, they're running antivirus in real time, they're running vulnerability scans in real time. It's happening all the time, all throughout the year. So you want to make sure you test that everything is working at least once a year. Okay, there are still people out there that have no idea what a pen test is. There's a lot of them. As I've explained before, my side gig is doing incident response. So whenever I'm out there across the country responding to companies that have been compromised, none of them so far have ever heard of a pen test. None of them. So, it's important that we get that information out. And the best way to get it out as a professional is to be certified. And out of all the certifications I have, my favorite, you can tell, is on my shirt. All right. Certified ethical hacker. When you walk into a room of people that have no idea about our profession, when the best they can do is turn their computer on and use their computer the way it's always set up, anything outside of that, they're lost. These might be people that call you, telling you that their computer isn't working, and you ask them, hey, have you turned it on yet? Is the computer plugged in? I mean, these are people that may say, Rodney, I deleted Windows, when they actually just deleted a Word doc off of their desktop. But these people have PhDs, right? These people are CEOs of companies. They just don't understand IT and computers as deeply as we do. But when I walk into a room full of those people and I tell them I'm a certified ethical hacker, the room gets quiet, right? People's ears perk up and they're ready to listen because I already have their attention. Hacker, I already got them. If they don't know anything else, they know about all the bad stuff that they've seen in the news. And as far as the practitioners in this profession, we know that whatever you see on the news, that the real news is a lot worse. There's way more stuff going on than you'll ever hear on the news, and it's a lot worse. So that's why it's important for us to be sharp. CEH version 13 is upon us. AI powered, get that certification. If you don't have a certified ethical hacker cert, get it. And then get you a shirt, all right? So you can walk around in your professional spaces with your head held high as an expert, as the industry subject matter expert in this field. Learn, certify, engage, and compete. Certifications are great. Get your degrees, get your experience in the field, and get you as many certifications as you can get. And then your certification set, make sure you have certified ethical hacker in there. And when people introduce you, out of all your certs, make sure certified ethical hacker is in your introduction somewhere, because people will stop and listen. And that will give you the opportunity to be able to help them, because now they're quiet and listening to what you have to say. Friends, I really appreciate you all being on this call today. Thank you, EC Council, again, for the opportunity to share, and I'm ready to answer any questions you have.
Thank you, Rodney, for delivering such an insightful and informative session.
You're
We
welcome.
found the webinar very engaging and hope it was valuable for you as well.
I love it.
So before we begin with the Q&A, I would like to inform all the attendees that this session is in sync with EC Council CEH program. EC Council Certified Ethical Hacker certification is mapped to a variety of roles in the cybersecurity industry, including ethical hacker, security analyst, security consultant, site administrator, and network management executive. As per LinkedIn 2022, it lists over 1,000 jobs seeking ethical hacking skills worldwide, and individuals holding the CEH certification can earn an average annual salary of USD 96,000 in the United States, as per Pay Scale 2022. If you're interested in learning more, please participate in the poll that's going to be conducted now. Let us know your preferred mode of training, and we will reach out to you soon. So, Rodney, shall we start with the question and answer?
Let's do it.
Okay. So our first question is, according to your methodology example, CEH hacking methodology and every phase, please align your tools to the very last phase of reporting.
align my tools to the very last phase of reporting. Is that the
Yes.
question?
Yes.
Um, in reporting, the tools for reporting. All the tools that you're going to choose the tools you want to use in your pen testing stack, and they're all going to give you certain output. All that output needs to be captured in your technical report, like all the output. In your executive summary, you shouldn't have all that output in your executive summary. That's for like your boards of directors. It needs to be very, very high level. So you're letting them know if the overall status of their network is critical, high, medium, low, and informational. That's how we are categorizing all the things that we're finding. And as we aggregate all that up, you'll get like a grand total of whether your stuff is critical or wherever it falls inside that, inside those ranges. The activity report should show what tool you used, what time you used it, and the output that you got it, and the time that you were getting the output. And that's your activity report. And those things are for your IT and cyber staff, because it's going to be way too technical for your executives to read. And feel free to follow up with a more technical conversation with the IT and cyber team with your reporting. Hope that answered your question.
Thank you. Next question to you is there a guide to writing a contract that helps you understand just how thorough your contract needs to be to cover yourself from legal repercussions of omissions?
Oh yeah, sure. You can Google sample penetration test contracts. If you reach out to me on LinkedIn, I'll let you see what one of mine looks like. There's a lot of companies out there running penetration testing. The things that you want to make sure you hit are showing them what your methodology is going to be. Give them a list of the tools that you're going to be using. Know how long this engagement is supposed to take. Make sure you have signature blocks on the bottom. Make sure they get signed. Make sure that wherever you're doing this pen test, you're following the law that under the state that you're operating in. So for me, all my contracts are under the state of Colorado law, no matter where I do them in the country. And that's always kept me safe. Make sure you have insurance. All right. Don't be out here trying to run a business and running pen tests on other companies without having insurance for yourself, just in case something goes wrong. And I've done a lot of these pen tests. I never had anything go wrong, but you never know. Your pen test might trip something and turn it off for the business, and they may end up losing some money because your pen test was running and it disrupted operations. So just make sure you run them a little slow so that they don't mess up anybody's real-time operations in the daytime. Hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Rodney.
Okay.
Next question for you is, it seems that the tools used in pen testing are evolving continually. In other words, what is true today will not be true for sure tomorrow. Do you agree with this?
I do. So always be checking new tools in the test stack. Kali Linux, I think when I did the last one of these, it just released a new version that had some new tools on it. So that's great. Use the new tools. Use them on your own network in your test lab and see how they work. And if you like them and they give you some good output and allow you to get some good movement and penetration into a network, bring it into your pen test stack. So yes, there's always new tools and new threats. So make sure you stay abreast of the new technologies. It's very good. Good question.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Next question for you is, how often is pen testing expected to be carried out?
Um, I tell people to do them at least once a year. And for a majority of the clients that I deal with, once a year is good. Sometimes if I run a pen test and I find like a whole bunch of stuff, the client will want me to come back in 6 months and do it again because they want to make sure that their IT is and cyber teams are taking the reports that I've given them and fixing the issue. So if I run the pen test again, in 6 months, I shouldn't see all the things that I saw before. The reason you run them at least every year is because things change, right? The pen testing tools may change. The attack methods that we use to run the pen test will change. There's new exploits out there in the field that change. So, running it every year is good. That's the best practice to catch all those changes.
Thank you for answering that.
You're
What are the
welcome.
job opportunities for pen tester or an IT professional?
What are other job opportunities? Um,
Yes.
you know, I would ask all of you who are looking for jobs, if you're in a job right now that you are not happy in, start looking for your other job before you quit the job you're in, okay? Don't get so impassioned that you hate where you're at right now and you just leave with no plan, all right? Um, Find the next opportunity, and then once you have that in your hand, then put in your 2 weeks. Always put in your 2-week notice and go to the next job. Be imaginative with the jobs that you have. One of the things I thought was interesting is that the Disney Corporation, all of their cyber jobs, their big high-level cyber jobs are in India. You can look that up on their website. And there's jobs for this profession all over the world that are on site, and there's a lot more coming up remote. I know Amazon just went back to more in-person working, but there's still a lot of organizations that will allow you to do your job remotely. So if you like where you live and you don't want to go anywhere else, look for those remote jobs. There's a ton of them, and look for them in places that you wouldn't think of. I'm a gamer. That's my dirty little secret. I love Fortnite. I like playing it with my kids and Mortal Kombat and all that stuff. So all these game developers, they need cyber people, all of them. I forget, there was a Wolverine game in development. I forget what company was building it, but they got hacked, and all their information about that, I think it was Sony. Yeah, Sony and Insomniac. They got hacked, gigs of data taken with all kinds of information about how they feel about Microsoft's gaming platform and all that. So like Sony Entertainment, they need cyber people, right? Insomniac Games, they need cyber people. So you can think about any company. Just look. There's a lot of jobs out there, so don't give up. Keep looking. They're out there. Tons of employment opportunities because everybody needs this, and it's only getting worse. The threat landscape's only getting worse every day. So if you really love this profession, that's another thing I want to tell you. Reno made a good point about the salaries that you get with this profession. Don't do it for the money, or you will be miserable every day of your career. This profession is not for the faint of heart, and if you don't love it, it's going to be very difficult. So if you love doing this stuff, if you could do it all day for free, then this is the job for you. And yes, you will get paid well. Any job or any profession that you study and you put in the work, you're going to get paid well. So I would recommend you do what you love. And if you do what you love, you'll study it to be the best, and you'll get money. All right, you'll get plenty of money. So I hope that answered your question.
Thank you, Rodney.
Welcome.
Our next question is, what is the difference between a pen tester and ethical hacker?
So an ethical hacker is somebody that knows how to do all the bad stuff, all the destroying of businesses and stealing of data and money and all that stuff, but we use our knowledge for good and not evil. So that is more of an educational component. That's a knowledge thing. A pen tester is a job. So there's a lot of different ways to pen test. There's manual pen testing that costs a lot more money. There's automated pen testing. But in order to drive those tools, to have the credibility to use those tools in front of the client, having those certifications is important. You can't just, take these pen testing tools and run them without having a knowledge of what you're doing and the effect that they're going to have on a system and the output that you're expecting to get from those attacks. Because you are an ethical hacker, because you are a certified ethical hacker, that means you took an exam to test your knowledge. Now you have it on paper. that you know what this is. There's a lot of people out there that don't believe in certs, and that's cool. You know, don't get them. But for the people that understand that experience, degrees, and certifications will make your resume float to the top of all resumes, then you know that these certifications are important. So keep getting them. Pen testing is a job. Being a certified ethical hacker is your credential that gives you credibility in doing your job, and you want credibility.
Thank you, Rodney.
Mhm.
Our next question is, do false positive findings also come out from pen test? How are these addressed?
They are. So that's why we have that briefing at the end. So, one of the things that comes up on my pen tests are the use of like IPv6, right? And, some companies use that. I think if I had to take all the companies in the world and put them in a box, all the ones using IPv6, that's a smaller subset. Most people are still using IPv4 for everything. External and internal communications. But Microsoft, thank you, turns IPv6 on by default. Your routers usually have IPv6 turned on by default. And if there's IPv6 and IPv4 active on the network, IPv6 takes precedence. So, and if you're not using it, it's a vector for a cyber attack to happen. So whenever I run my pen tests, I end up putting like a DHCP server on their network, a rogue one that runs on IPv6. I put a rogue DNS server on the network that's also running with IPv6 connectivity. And all the computers on the network will start authenticating to my rogue server. And if I've got control of your DNS, I can control your websites. I can control, I can make a fake server with the same name but a different IP in IPv6 and have you communicating with it. I can have your credentials passing through my fake domain controller that's running on IPv6 but has the same name as your actual domain controller, so I'm capturing information. So it's a very destructive vector if you're not using it. So for companies that are using IPv6, when I find that, that's a false positive, right? Because it's not a threat. They're actually using it and they need that turned on. But for the ones that don't need IPv6, it's an actual finding and they need to turn that off. So that's an example of like false positives that come up on the pen testing, but there's not a whole lot of false positives. Most of them are positive positives, actual findings. Hope that answers your question.
Thank you. Our next question is, what is the best protection to the dark web AI?
What's the best protection for what?
Dark web AI.
Dark web AI. Stay off the dark web. If you don't need to be on it, stay off it. For those of you in the US that are on this call, freeze your credit. I know it's a pain, but call the credit agencies and freeze your credit with each one of the credit bureaus. And that'll keep your identity theft down. The dark web has a lot of information that gets trafficked. They have a lot of weapons and people that get trafficked through that environment. So to keep yourself out of it, keep your passwords different for every online account that you have. NIST has released some new password guidelines in the last 30 days or so. We used to talk about changing your passwords every 90 days. They're not suggesting that anymore. They're just saying have a really long, complex password. And if you think it's been compromised, then change it. But you don't have to change it every 90 days. Just make it really long and complex and hold on to that. So just do better cyber hygiene. If you're not using two-factor authentication, and yes, there's people who are in this profession that haven't put on their two-factor authentication yet. Turn on 2FA. Use the protections that we have in place now and set those up. Your secret questions, don't use real things, because like your first card is on the dark web in somebody's database. Where you went on your honeymoon is somewhere in somebody's dark web database. So your mother's maiden name is somewhere in the dark web database. So when you're creating those answers to the secret questions make it different. My mother's maiden name is 64 characters of uppercase, lowercase numbers and symbols. That's my mother's maiden name. So for all my secret questions, like you're really gonna have to, you know, put in some work. But like the most important thing is for you to share this knowledge that I'm giving you today and the knowledge that you already have. Share that with the people in your life, in your circle of influence, that don't know as much as you do about this. So find a way to talk. You know, I'm here with EC Council doing this international speaking presentation to all of you, which I love. But in your local communities, there's places for you to talk. Once you get these certifications and EC Council reaches out to you to do a talk, do the talk. Because knowledge is power. Sharing this information with you is making it harder for things that are on the dark web to affect you, your friends, and your loved ones. So just share the knowledge. Hope that answers your question.
Thank you so much, Rodney.
You're welcome.
Our next question is, what if at certain point your action to gain access is prevented by IPS and IDs and it kept on preventing you? What will be your course of action?
If there are things preventing me, then, you know, congratulations. That's good. That means your stuff is working. So, you know, the things I've been running up against are, you know, people that think their IPS is running and it's actually turned off. So we're getting right in. You know, if their IPS is blocking me, I have a whole range of things that I'm trying to exploit. So things that the IPS is tracking, it may not be tracking other things that I'm able to get into. So, you know, IPS will track malicious traffic, right? Or things that are moving in a malicious way. So if I'm running my Nmap too fast, the IPS is going to pick that up, right? But if I find my way into your Active Directory infrastructure and I'm laterally moving around your network, your IPS may not pick that up. If I end up infecting your spooler service and turning off your AV, your IPS may not pick that up either. If I end up sending you an email that you click on, or download a program because Microsoft called you on the phone and asked you to download a program, if it's misconfigured, the IPS won't pick it up either. So, you know, IPS is good. You should have it running, but it's not an end all be all. You need to have, what do we call that? Defense in depth. So yes, you should have the IPS and the firewall running on the network level. You should have an IPS, and firewall, and other security measures running at the host level on your computers and your servers. And they should be building like a hive. They should all be communicating with each other to look for threats. You'd be surprised. Like this all seems like common knowledge to all of you because you're all professionals. But for a lot of people, they've never heard these things. And for the CEOs, you know, they don't know to ask the questions to make sure all this stuff is running. So that's why we're doing these pen tests to make sure that everything is the way it's supposed to be and set up, because you miss things. When you're the IT provider for a company, you're doing the best you can, right? You actually may be one IT person for a multi-million-dollar company with hundreds of endpoints, right? And they only have one IT person there. And you're doing the best you can to defend this network, and they only have you there. So, you know, getting a pen test will help expose those things that you may be missing. So I hope that answered your question about the IPS. That's one defense that if it's not broken, there's other ways to get around it, the pen test. So I hope that answered your question.
Thank you. We'll be taking last two questions for the day, Rodney. We have received a lot of questions, so we can just take two more. So our
Okay.
next question is it possible if AI can replace ethical hackers or penetration testers?
AI is going to be doing a lot of work. I don't think it's going to replace us. I think it's going to be a tool that we use. So, you know, I hear a lot of people worried about AI replacing jobs, and it may replace some jobs, but, you know, if I have, you know, Metasploit that's able to run everything with AI, I still need to be the one to deploy that. I still need to be the one to drive and steer that ship. So I don't think it's going to replace us, but it's definitely going to be a neat tool in our tool set. There's going to be a defensive side of AI with pen testing, and there's going to be the offensive side of AI with pen testing. So learn it. Get that CEH 13, okay? and stay on top of these new AI advancements and how it's going to affect our workplace. But no, I do not think it's going to replace us. It's just going to be a tool that we use. So learn how to use the tool, and you'll still have a job when AI comes along. Well, it's already here, to help us do our job. So no, it's not going to replace us.
Thank you for answering that, Rodney. Our last question for you is, what are the main requirements to be in a red team?
So, that's an interesting question. For this profession, there aren't really any requirements really to do this job. You could go on YouTube and watch a day's worth of random IT and cyber videos and then start a business and call yourself a cybersecurity professional with no certs, no degree, just a self-proclaimed cybersecurity professional. And those people are out there, not really knowing what they're doing, and companies that don't know the right questions to ask are hiring them to essentially put their business at risk, to pay another company to put you at risk because they don't know what they're doing. So, as professionals on this call, it's important for you to educate leadership and other companies about what they should be looking for when they're looking for somebody to do their cybersecurity and IT. They should have certifications, right? They should have experience. They should have degrees in this topic, or at least aspiring to get them. Get the certs. Degrees take longer to get, but get the certifications while you're getting your degree. You have a whole bunch of certs by the time you get your bachelor's or your master's. Always keep collecting the certifications. Personally, you want to be the best. I hope you do. So get those certifications so that when there's a red team looking for people, a qualified red team will be looking for your certifications. And I guarantee you, they'll be looking for certified ethical hacker, because they want that on the red team. They want that on the blue team too. You're a good defender as well as an attacker. So learning both sides of that fence is great. So just learn it all. The requirements may or may not be there, but for you to be the best, you want to make sure you have all those certifications under your belt. So just keep getting them and stay encouraged. Sometimes you might not pass it the first time, okay? Don't give up, all right? Just keep trying and going after it, and you'll pass it, and you'll be proud, and you'll hang it up on your wall. Like I have my certs on my wall back here, and you'll have the requirements that companies need.
Thank you, Rodney, for answering those many questions
You're welcome.
and for the great presentation and knowledge you have shared with our global audience.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure to have you with us, and we are looking for our next session of the series. So, before we conclude the webinar, would you like to give a small message to our audience?
Thank you, everybody, for participating in this today. Thank you for hearing me talk. It's the evening for many of you, and I know you understand this profession is important. Thank you for reaching out to me on LinkedIn. I see a bunch of people reaching out. Keep reaching out. The world is actually really small in our profession because we've got digital connections to each other. So let's partner. I'm happy to encourage you and give you pathways forward to try to find what you're looking for. Make sure you check out my next talk. Check out the other cyber talk. There's some great experts in the cyber talk series. They're all amazing. And one day you may find yourself in the cyber talk series, and we'll be there supporting you too. So love, like, and share this when you see it come out on YouTube and online. And if you want to do some business, reach out to me on LinkedIn as well. Happy to help. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Rodney,